The Mets fans are pumped. Why? Because the Mets are 4 wins away from a trip to the World Series. And standing in their way to that World Series is the Los Angeles Dodgers in the National League Championship Series. The NLCS gets underway at Dodger Stadium on Sunday night. So let's preview the series. We're going to do it with a host on WFAN. He is also a passionate Mets fan. His name is Cintron. And the host of the Subway to Shea podcast. He's also a passionate Mets fan. His name is Anthony Rivera. And both guys join me now. What's up, fellas?
How's it going, Dex?
Going good. I know you're in a good mood. We've been talking about that before we started recording. I know you're in a very good mood, Al. Anthony, how are you doing?
Dexter, I'm doing great. And I was just thinking about this. The last time you were on my podcast, it was just after this Dodgers series where they had to let go of Jorge Lopez. I think we broke that live on the air. And to see how far they've come since then, it's been a wild season. And I just hope it keeps going.
Yeah, I think that's the hope for a lot of Mets fans. And you see Al is hyped right there. So speaking of that, we'll start with both of you. A question for both of you about this, because you just mentioned it, Anthony. The Mets, they started the season 0-5. They were once 11 games below 500. Are either of you shocked about this team making it to the NLCS? And does this run have you inspired for the future of the franchise? Al, I'm going to start with you first.
For the future of the franchise, hell yeah, it's inspiring. It's inspiring. Considering they were in the dumps, I thought the season was over in May. 11 games out, guys throwing gloves in the crowd. I'm surprised Cleats didn't go flying in the crowd as well. And, it's no flash in the pan. They've been the best team in baseball, second best team in baseball, because the first team just got knocked out since June, since the London series. And it's been pitching. It's been timely hitting. Everybody's contributed. And am I surprised in the NLCS? If you ask me that in May, yeah. But right now, considering the body of work, no, not at all. I said if the Mets won game 1 versus Philly, they win in 4. Business handled.
Business handled. I know you like that, the business was handled. Anthony, are you surprised with where the Mets are at, especially since that time I came on your show and we were talking about the Mets at that, what you call now, the low point of the season? Are you surprised where they are right now?
I think I'm surprised like Al is surprised. Like if it was in May, they were 11 or 12 games under 500. It felt like 2023 all over again, just starting a little bit earlier. But they have played as one of the best teams in baseball since that time in May, and since that time that we talked. They've been the best overall team in baseball. They've made a lot of moves, and I'm inspired for the future because, for the first time in my lifetime, the Mets actually have a hierarchy in place that's, 1, knowledgeable, 2, that loves this team and looks to improve it and not cut corners just for the sake of cutting corners. You got the Cohens at the top of the helm right there. They brought in their guy in David Stearns. He's done everything he's could to put this roster together to get this far. And you got the perfect manager in Carlos Mendoza, who's calm, who's strategic, who does analysis as well as doing the eye test. I think they have the right people in place to get to the World Series, and I think they do it this coming year.
Ooh, got the prediction out the way early. Doing it this year. Wow, okay, we're going to get to prediction stuff a little bit later. Al, let me start with this for you, because I think when you look at the pitching in this series against the Dodgers, you would think, just looking at the names, the Dodgers staff should be deeper than the Mets, probably more talented, probably. However, in the division series, the Phillies, they arguably had the better staff than the Metropolitans. So with Kodai Senga back in the mix, do the Mets have enough to compete with the Los Angeles staff?
Yes, an emphatic yes. And you say, look at the names in the Dodgers. Well, look at the names in the Mets. Before the season started, everybody said this is a, D+ if that pitching staff. And here we are, from Quintana to Severino to Manaea. I'm happy Senga's back. I think, the whole plan was to get him back for this point. I think the Mets had confidence that they can get this far. So why not put Singh out there for 2 innings? I think he goes 4 or 5 innings. You have Peterson waiting to go then, who's been brilliant at the bullpen since we don't have a lefty after the bullpen. So I think this Met pitching staff can compete with not only the Dodgers, but anyone in baseball, and they've shown it.
All right, there's Al. Al is talking his stuff. Anybody can get it right now with the Mets pitching staff. Anthony, I want to talk to you about the offense because Francisco Lindor, he's been the central figure for this Mets turnaround this season, and he's had a strong postseason. Is he the player that has to have another big-time performance to get the Mets back to the World Series this year?
I mean, he should if we want to beat that Dodgers lineup. I mean, they are just as good as we are. They got a couple top players. They got Shohei Ohtani, who's going at it with Lindor for the MVP. But remember in 2022 and 2023 when the offense was, it's Alonso and Lindor or bust? Not anymore, right? They got Nimmo, they got Vientos, Marte, Winker, Iglesias. They are getting offense from all sorts of the field here, and it's great to see everyone chip in and put together for this team because we didn't see that in the past, and that's why they've gotten so far in these playoffs, because every day there's a new hero, and that's great to see when it comes to a team that has aspirations to be world champion.
No doubt about that. Everybody's been eating at the plate in terms of the Mets lineup. Al, you just heard Anthony mention that. The Dodgers lineup, they have talented stars at the top, right? Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddy Freeman. Which of those stars must the Mets keep off the bases in order to win this series?
Well, I don't know how healthy he is, but to me, it's Met killer Freddie Freeman. That guy has haunted the Mets for a long, long time. You can look at the Ohtanis and you can look at Betts, and Ohtani did not have a good series at all. I think he was 1 for 15, something like that, after he hit his home run or whatever it was. And Mookie Betts has had his playoff struggles. To me, it's Freddie Freeman. If the Mets, because guys get in front of Freeman, if the Mets can prevent it from driving in guys, the Mets have a great chance to win this series.
That's what they got to do, keep those guys in front of him off the base paths. We'll see if they can do that. Anthony, we saw Kodai Senga pitch Game 1 against the Phillies, and he's going to get to start Game 1 on Sunday night in Los Angeles. What are you expecting from Senga in his second postseason start?
A little bit of a longer outing for him, especially if he pitches the way he did in Game 1 against the Phillies. All he did was give up a leadoff home run to Kyle Schwarber, and after that, he pretty much shut the Phillies down for those 2 innings. So more innings, pitches we get from him would be fantastic, and we know the roles where it comes out after him. We'll probably see David Peterson or Tyler McGill come out of the bullpen and try to help this team, lengthen their pitching staff. And it's great that they've gotten some days off so they can rest.
Yeah, the rest has been valuable for them. It'll be intriguing to see how far Senga can take it, what his pitch count will be in this one, and how many innings he can give the Metropolitans. Al, the Mets, they do not have home field advantage in this series, so they're going to have to win at least one game on the road in order to dump the Dodgers. What must the Mets do in order to get at least a split in the first 2 games at Dodger Stadium?
Well, I don't know if Senga can go pitch deep, but hopefully Senga can get to the minimal 4th inning and then hand it off to Peterson for 3. Budo for 1, Diaz for another. That's the formula. For the second game, it's Minaya go 6 or 7 and get to Diaz. And if the Mets can come out with a split in Dodger Stadium, they're going to win this series. And I know you're going to ask me later. You asked me before we went on that I can hear you saying Mets sweep. So here it is for everybody here. You ready? If the Mets win the first 2 in LA, they will sweep the Dodgers.
Here we go. You knew it was coming, folks. You knew it was coming from Al Cintron. He had to put it out there. Again, I'll repeat. He said if the Mets win the first 2 games in L.A., they will sweep. Anthony, hold that. I was going to ask you if you felt that way. I'm gonna hold that for Anthony. My last thing for both of you, right? Because I want to talk about your prediction, what you think of the series. Although Al just made a pretty bold prediction there. I want you to finish this sentence for me. The Mets will win the NLCS and knock off the Dodgers if they do what? What has to happen for the Mets to win this National League Championship Series, advance to the World Series? What do they need to do? What has to happen for them to do that? Anthony, I'll start with you first.
Basically, continue doing what they're doing. Timely hitting, timely pitching. Treat the Dodgers top trio the same way they treated the Phillies. Those guys were really good, and I don't know what happened to them. They just fell apart in the postseason. They got to take at least 1 game in LA to me. I know Al said take 2. 2 is great. I'll take that in a heartbeat. But at the very least, take 1 and get that home field advantage.
All right, so if they do that and get the home field advantage, you think they have a good shot at winning. Al, what do the Mets have to do to come out on top in this series?
I'll piggyback on what Anthony said because I was going to say the same thing. Continue what you've been doing. Timely hitting, clutch pitching. I know you mentioned Tyler McGill coming in. No thanks. I don't want to see him in. I get nervous with him in. I know he had a solid September. I do not trust that man in a big spot. I can't. But if the Mets just continue what they've been doing, everybody's been contributing, top to bottom. Everyone. Even J.D. Martinez is a guy in the head. Harrison Bader playing center field late in games. If the Mets, Anthony said, split that. Listen, I said if they win the first 2, they're going to sweep. Do I expect them to do that? No. My realistic prediction is the Mets in 7.
Mets in 7. You got it on the record from Al Cintron. Realistic prediction, Mets in 7. I'm assuming the not realistic prediction was the Mets sweeping. That's the not realistic one?
If they win the first 2, start breaking out the brooms. That's what I said.
Okay. Anthony, real quick before we get out of here, what is your realistic prediction for the Mets in the series?
Well, I remember we came on here to talk about the Brewers series, and I said that they would sweep. I was wrong on that. I had the Mets in 4 against Philadelphia. I got that one right. I'm saying Mets in 6.
Mets in 6. All right. Realistic predictions. Anthony, Mets in 6. Al, Mets in 7. But if they win the first 2, he's bringing out the brooms. That's how they have it going down. Check out my guys, fantastic Mets fans, also do great in terms of content. Anthony Rivera with the Subway to Shea podcast, the host of that. Tremendous job there. Also, Al Cintron. Catch him on WFAN, where he will be making even more bold predictions than you heard on this NLCS preview. Guys, I appreciate you coming and rocking with me and previewing this series. We will see how the Mets fare. Thank you.
Let's go, Mets.